Hey guys, welcome to a very special episode of Still Untitled.
The Adam Savage Project.
Still Untitled. I think that's what we... Well, let's move on.
I think that's a perfectly cromulent name.
Still Untitled.
So we are here at ComicCon.
We are in the belly of the beast.
There were stormtroopers on the way here, and it's the cliche, but you just walk around and you see things you never see in any other kind of part of the civilized world. And it's awesome. It's just everybody's really into the whole nerd culture, and people love it and embrace it, and I love being here. Adam, Norm, obviously are here with me.
Hello.
It would be a really boring podcast. It was just me sitting in a hotel room talking to myself. So last night we went to Woodstock.
Woodstock.
I feel like we should start there because
Woodstock 4.0, which is it's the fourth year we've been doing Woodstock.
Windows didn't get good until they hit 4.0. So
Then they called it 95.
Exactly. Yeah. So is next year going to be Woodstock 2013?
No, next year's going to be Woodstock 5.0. We up the number iteration every year, and then subdivide it by the number of Woodstocks in that year.
Oh, cool! Because you do shows all around the country, right?
We have done. It's been curtailed a lot more because we all have different schedules, and it's very hard to coordinate 4 guys who live in 4 different cities to do concerts in the same place.
So it's you and Will Wheaton and Paul and Storm are the kind of primaries on Woodstock?
We are the founders of Woodstock, yes.
Okay. Very cool. And it's been
friends.
Yeah.
Yes. It all started about 4 years ago. Paul and Storm asked both Will and I if we'd be interested in doing something like a variety show for geeks. And we were like, what part of how quickly can we say yes?
It's almost I don't want to say I almost want to say this because I think it'll turn people off, but it's almost vaudevillian. Like there's a very kind of, hey, any act will fly as long as it gets laughs, and it's the friendliest crowd I think I've ever seen.
That's the main thing that's so enjoyable for us. The crowd is incredibly friendly. They're incredibly loyal. The number of people that come back year after year or that find us in city after city is incredible. And you can make the most esoteric jokes, and somebody in the audience will get it, and that's great. Even if your joke's only for one person, you get a good guffaw, and you know you've done something good.
It's originated at ComicCon?
No, actually, the first Woodstock, I believe, was in San Francisco.
Oh, okay. And now ComicCon is kind of the right place in time.
It's become an anchor. It's a perfect crowd. We pretty much sell out every year, and we're all here. It's a perfect storm.
Cool. And so last night, I think there were probably 15 acts, probably all told, 12 or 15
like
acts,
that,
something
12
like that.
Yeah, it ran in just over 4 hours.
Yeah, we saw some people I'd never heard of or seen before. I mean, I'd seen on YouTube and stuff like that, but like the double clicks were really good.
Double clicks were amazing.
Really funny.
LeVar Burton and Will Wheaton singing the Reading Rainbow song.
That was brilliant. Have you looked at that app yet? The
No,
Reading Rainbow app?
I haven't.
We've got to do an app of the day of it because I downloaded it the other day, and it's everything I remember loving about Reading Rainbow when I was 6 years old. So
fantastic.
I'm really stoked that LeVar brought that back after it ended on PBS a few years ago.
Yeah.
So what else is going on at ComicCon? I just got here yesterday, so I haven't seen anything yet except for stormtroopers and zombies and nerds.
I just got here yesterday as well. I got here yesterday morning, and one of the first things I did was come up to the room and put on a full ringwraith costume
from Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings, one of the 9 kings corrupted by the rings of Sauron, who set out across the River Isen to seek out Frodo at the beginning of the Fellowship of the Ring, if you know that sort of thing. And the costume was made for me by a place called Crop Circle, KROPSERKASER. K-E-L. Thank you. My brain just went off the rails there.
So it's spelled wrong like 4 different ways.
4 different ways.
That's got to be on purpose.
And Scott Maple is one of the principals over there, and they just do the most unbelievable work. If you go over to their website, I think it's cropcircle.com, they make costumes. Some of them for sale. Most of them are for their private use. They're real avid fine craft makers. They even have a picture of John Howe, the designer of the armor from Lord of the Rings, like enjoying a piece of their armory, came to their shop and signed some stuff. And I mean, It's an honor to own the piece, and wearing it out was great. I was like cutting the swath through the crowd.
So
Thank goodness you didn't bring the sword.
Yeah, no, I ditched the sword at the last minute because I thought I can't do this.
I saw a picture of you waving the sword around in the hotel room, and I thought, oh God, he didn't possibly bring that to the.
No,
okay, that's good.
I can barely see out of the thing. It's through this black veil of fabric that you just can't see anything.
So okay, so the costume is boots and gloves and a giant kind of
The
robe,
costume, yeah,
right?
it's boots, shins, knees, and thighs of armor, plus gauntlets of armor, plus about like 20 yards of a sort of a burnt, dark gray and black woolly fabrics that cover my whole body. And then also make me like 7.5 feet tall. So I set out from the hotel room yesterday, and over a 2-hour period was dropping hints on Twitter for people to find me. And the first hint I dropped was that I was somewhat royal, a king.
Kingly.
And so people were like, Elvis. And then I was like, no, it's not Elvis. And then I said, I'm a king who doesn't look so good. And everyone was like, Fat Zombie Elvis. I'm like, I can't believe how many people on Twitter guessed Fat Zombie Elvis, which maybe is a terrific costume to choose next year.
Inspiration.
Why not?
But I left the hotel room here at the Marriott and walked downstairs. I got about 100 feet from the elevator when someone yelled out, Adam Incognito!
Which is the
Which is the
keyword.
name of
Yeah,
my, it's
okay.
my hashtag on Twitter for my scavenger hunt, the Where's Waldo, Where's Adam in Costume scavenger hunt. And he guessed from the clue and completely came up, and I was like, you can't have gotten it that fast. And he was like, and
You heard the jingling of
yes.
the walking.
So we crowned 2 winners because I had to head out to the floor still, and this girl named Madigan found me about an hour later.
Awesome.
Okay, great.
And we will actually have video of all of this on the site. So you should watch that.
I have to admit, putting on the costume, sitting here in the room with like 4 different people filming me and 10 different people in the room, I'm putting on this costume. You know, I paid a lot to have it built. I've got this room full of costumes, and it feels, in many ways, many shades of ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And yet that's also exactly what's great about this is people submitting and giving themselves over to the ridiculous.
And you know, as ridiculous as you feel, there are 100, 200 other people in this hotel in the city doing the exact same thing.
Oh, thousands. And
Yeah.
in a way, that's exactly what I feel like I'm doing is, you know, I'm enjoying something that 8-year-old me would have thought was the coolest thing in the world, and 45-year-old me thinks is some of the coolest stuff in the world.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to indulge those parts of you. It is totally vital, even though right now, with all the things and the trappings that I have, I still feel just as ridiculous as you can imagine.
Well, and it's not. I don't want to say it's scary because it's not scary. But anytime you do something that's outside of societal norms, there's at least for me, you feel real intense social pressure to not do that. Like it's ingrained as pack animals, I guess, all the way back to the trees. To do what the rest of the herd does. And I guess here the herd kind of does whatever they want.
The motto for ComicCon is celebrating the popular arts. And you've talked a lot about popular culture and culture being one and the same.
Yes, and that argument's been made by much more. That argument's been made perfectly in academia, that there is no blurred line or gray area between pop culture and culture.
Right.
They are all one thing, and
ComicCon is the manifestation of that.
it is totally the manifestation of that, and the celebration of that, and you know the enthusiasm of everybody here. When you stand on the street and you watch people filing towards the convention hall, and to make no mistake, this is like 180,000 people milling about downtown San Diego, and some of them are in the most elaborate costumes you've ever seen. Decepticons that actually transform, that they built up for years out of cardboard and fiberglass, and others are wearing Superman suits they made out of duct tape yesterday.
And people, you know, even if you buy a Halloween costume and just put it on, it's totally fine because it's not about the role playing. It's just being about expressing yourself.
There's also, I notice here in San Diego, which is quite a diverse community, a completely racially diverse mix out on the floor. There is no homogeneity out there, and that's actually kind of lovely. And it's not just everyone showing up to watch the freak show either. There is a real sense of participation in what is happening here.
Well, it's called International Comic Con.
Yes.
People
Right.
do fly over and, you know, spend the week in San Diego. there's literally something for everyone.
Well, the homogenization is in the shared love of
Yes.
of various aspects of geekdom and nerd culture.
I say that because to me it would be easy in the abstract to imagine that this is Comic-Con falls into the category of shit that white people like, right, or something like that, and it is absolutely it's just not that. It's a complete mix of across the board, racially, culturally, class, everything.
And the interesting thing to me, because I've been coming to Comic-Con probably, I mean, I took a couple years off here and there, but I've been coming for 5 or 6 years now, and there've been many more girls in the last few years. And I think I think Twilight obviously has a lot to do with that, because the Twilight panel is a huge thing here every year.
Well, I think that Comic-Con Comic-Con's been going on for
Over 50
decades.
years.
Yeah. And you've got this extra. So Comic-Con, you've got the popular culture, you've got the booths, you've got the movies and the television and the premieres, but then you've also got the cosplayers. And cosplay has gotten a tremendous amount of push from the female from women over the past 10 years. It's really like you could probably graph it, but where it's really taken seriously and women really participate and build beautiful costumes, where 15 years ago that really wouldn't have been the case. I'm not sure where it originates. Something in my brain says it really comes out of otaku culture.
It is,
Yeah.
and the word cosplay, I mean, there's a lot of, even dissent in that cosplay community, because a lot of people think cosplay should only be called for Japanese costumes.
Right.
'Cause it really did come from that. You see over the past couple of years, I mean, cosplay is the easiest, like the visual spectacles, it's easiest to appreciate here. But I think fewer at Comic-Con over the years, and more people moving toward like Dragon Con, for
Yes,
example.
well, Dragon Con is absolutely, when it comes to the costuming, Comic-Con is... I don't want to say Comic-Con's amateur night, but Dragon Con's definitely for professionals.
It's one of those things where
That's amazing.
when you go to Comic-Con, you know, if you're in costume, great, and people take photos with you. If you don't go, you feel perfectly normal, because
Right.
a lot of normal people in cool T-shirts. Like, cool T-shirts is the uniform
Yes.
for Comic-Con. If you go to Dragon Con and you're not in costume, then you feel out of place.
You totally feel out of place. And it is...
Wow.
Dragon Con, it's hard to explain, but I mean, Dragon Con is an intense atmosphere. Even if you've done Comic-Con and been out in the middle of the floor in the middle of one of the biggest days, Dragon Con, which is a tenth the size,
Yeah, in Atlanta.
is still really, really incredible.
And again, one of those conventions where, it's called Dragon Con, but it's not just about fantasy or Dungeons and Dragons. It really has expanded beyond its name.
It really has, and it has... I think Dragon Con takes the panels and goes much farther afield with them, where you end up with skeptics panels and really detailed astronomy panels and things like that. But yeah, this whole con culture is melding into something that's very different than all of their original mission statements.
It's very interesting just from a sociological standpoint to study the different types of people who go to Comic-Con, how they interact, because who you are at Comic-Con, it might be, you act a little differently, definitely.
I remember being 16, and it was The Road Warrior had come out on cable. And so for my Halloween costume, I had this old leather jacket, and I cut the sleeve off, and I made an armor gauntlet, and I put some buttons on and everything, and I made plates on the knuckles and everything, and I wore it to school for Halloween. And I felt really good in it. Like, it was really nice. And then somebody in my class said, "Look at Adam, he's got some metal on his arm and he's all badass." And I remember feeling like, oh my God, he's totally nailed me. But it was true. It was totally true. And I mean, you get a lot of that here. People that put on the transformation. And one of the things I love about watching like behind the scenes footage of Robert Downey Jr. playing Iron Man is he's like, you see an interview of him in the costume and he's like, "I love wearing this costume."
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. They could make it more comfortable. And they do. With each successive movie, the guys at Legacy Effects are making that suit more and more wearable for him, but he loves wearing it.
you
And
could
that's
have-
as it should be.
I mean,
The light
Just-
below his shirt all
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
Why not?
just to be clear, if you had an Iron Man suit, you would wear it all the time, right?
I'm currently building an Iron Man Mark III
Interesting.
suit, and I'm not sure I'm going to wear it all the time, but I'm definitely going to find some places to wear it.
I know that we'll see you at some point sitting on the couch at home, flipping channels on the TV, wearing the Iron Man suit.
Well, I'm not sure I could actually clutch a basketball in the suit. It is the movement is very restricted.
So is Comic-Con special because it is once a year, 1 week a year, and it's an annual thing? If there were more Comic-Cons, and there are plenty of comic book
There are
conventions,
tons of cons.
Yeah.
around the country. I mean, do we want that to happen?
I don't know. You know, it's hard. It's really hard to say which is the chicken or the egg. I mean, things gather their own momentum, and Comic-Con absolutely has the highest gravitational force of any of the cons.
A lot of that's just proximity to LA, though. I mean, right? Because people can come down for the day. It makes all the panels
I guess you're right.
star-studded and that
Yeah.
kind of. I mean, that's what I always assumed.
But I mean, there's no shortage of stars. I guess you end up with at Comic-Con because of its proximity to LA. You end up with a lot more super current stars. But there are plenty of actors from all your favorite movies who go to all the cons
That's
to
true.
sign autographs and meet the fans and talk to them.
And a lot of people can't get in. I mean, everyone wants to get in, even though there are 180,000 people here. It sells out immediately.
It's hard to
A
get in
year-
as press.
Oh no, it's.
I mean-
every year it's trouble for us making sure we've got our whole team covered with credentials. and passes.
Yeah.
So there is an argument to be made to expand it, and they've talked about moving it to possibly Las Vegas, Anaheim, just opening it up. Could we see a time where there is a town dedicated to this type of culture 24/7? And
God, I wonder. I don't know.
And-
There's also. I mean, I'm sure just like Burning Man, there are people going, it's no longer any good. Last year, I spent some time with John Landis, and he took me over to Artists Alley, and we spent a couple of hours over there. John's got a lot of old friends among the artists over there, and. It's a totally different community. John showed me a side of Comic-Con that I completely did not. I knew it was there, but I had not engaged with it, and it was wonderful. And that is absolutely the origin of Comic-Con.
so even a veteran to the convention, you can find little nuggets of things, new little clicks that pop up, new sections, new art departments.
Oh, there are 4 Comic Cons, right? Because there's the panels, and then there's the show floor,
Yeah.
and there's all the cosplay stuff, which is just kind of all over San Diego at this point.
Yes.
And then there's the actual appreciation of artists who draw comics.
Yeah.
Which
or just art in general.
and writers and
Yeah. It's I wasn't a big comic book nerd, but the first time I came here, I was absolutely blown away just by the level of passion and the kind of the depth, both the depth and the breadth of Comic-Con. And I think that's the thing that's been lost a little bit as the movie stuff has come in and gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. Because those guys used to be, maybe not Artist Alley, but there used to be a lot more stuff in the hall.
Yes.
That was small vendors and people who were making a comic book and publishing it themselves.
absolutely.
So
There's a way in which everybody comes here to sort of. The other thing that I like about Comic-Con is seeing all of these. I'd call them all colleagues. People like Chris Hardwick, Felicia Day, Will Wheaton, each one of them working on, I mean, you could say in the most cynical sense, a brand, but really working on building an infrastructure to allow them to keep doing what they want to do under their control and doing it wonderfully in totally different ways. And I love coming here and being able to hang out with all those guys at the same time or at the same weekend.
Awfully convenient.
It's super convenient. And there's, tons of fertile. I have introduced people to each other here that have then gone on to do projects together that are then fielding other projects. And I love watching that web move out from here.
and the thing about what especially Felicia and Chris are doing is, they're building a new paradigm for TV.
Yes.
The YouTube stuff that's happening right now, I don't know if people really appreciate that, but the stuff like Geek and Sundry and the Nerdist channel and all the kind of small indie guys that got money from Google to go out and do something awesome are building something that is going to be new TV. I firmly believe that.
And full disclaimer, we were all at the Geek and Sundry party last night after Woodstock
true.
dancing until 2 in the morning.
I try not to think about that. But yeah,
That was crazy.
it was
fun.
good. It was a lot of
Dance
fun.
circles.
Dance circles.
Yeah.
Totally awesome.
So anything else? Anything? Let's see. What are you? Do you get to go around and look at stuff while you're coming? What do you see when you're walking around the ringwraith costume?
But I in the ringwraith costume, I see nothing. Every year, this is Yvette. Every year, I bring something that's easy to wear, so I could walk around. If I hit the floor without anything on and just a baseball cap, and I never stopped moving, I could walk the floor, and only a few people would notice, or people would notice after I walked past.
Right. And you point, go look over there. Joss
but
Whedon's over there.
I-
Stay away from me.
But it's very difficult for me to stop and browse at somebody's booth. There are booths that I make a specific point of visiting. There's one I've got my eye on later on today and tomorrow morning. because certain things show up here from a prop standpoint that I very specifically want pictures of. Last year, it was a ZF-1 gun from the Fifth Element that I think
We did a video of that.
Prop Store of London,
Store of London.
brought out. Yes. And I had never... They had never held one until they had obtained it a few months before. So I knew it was here. I made a special trip, actually without anything on, to go and take some pictures of it.
And that's one of those things, some booths, they bring out, if they're merchants, they bring out their new products for the year, whether it's a new replica Starship or something, like Quantum Mechanics has the Enterprise D this year. But Prop Store of London, because the turnaround is so quick on those things, they'll have it here, and then next year is completely different.
It's in a private.
Oh, yeah.
It's in a private collection. By
Well,
now.
and Prop Store, Stephen Lane and those guys have a, they want attention, which is good for their business. So they bring out their show pieces.
Take pictures, please. Take pictures.
They've got they've got John Hurt's Hero Kane spacesuit from Alien on display this year. That's something I'm going to make a special trip to go see.
I mentioned yesterday they also have one of the penguins from Batman Returns, the model penguins.
Yes.
And only at Comic-Con could you have people walk around, look, oh, that's the penguin from Batman Returns, and then two guys walk up and say, we made that. We made it for the production. We made 175 of those. I remember painting that one.
I actually in a separate random small world story, I was we were at the Rally to Restore Sanity and or Fear, and I'm hanging out with some of Colbert's writers, and one of them says, I used to be a video game director. And I said, oh, really? And he said, yeah, I directed all the live action stuff for Riven. And I said, oh, really? And he said, yeah. And I said, so that footage when the huge knife falls into the chasm at the end. And he said, yeah. And I said, I built that knife. I was working for Jamie Heineman at the time, and that job came in, and I built that live action knife for you. And he was like, no way. And here it is, like 13 years later, and we're meeting in a bar in Washington, D.C.
That is the kind of stuff that happens
all the time
all
here.
the time.
Yeah. And I've got a lot of really great friends from Industrial Light and Magic, colleagues who were model makers with me, who are now directors, art directors, production designers.
have their own shops.
They have their own shops. They have their own shows going. They have their own projects, booths downstairs, and I love checking in with those guys.
Do you buy anything at Comic-Con?
I usually on the last day I'll grab some stuff, but it would be pretty surprising for me.
Like for example, like you have the District 9 rifles, and those are debuted at Comic-Con also.
Is there new ones being to be?
There are not this year.
No, I didn't think so. Yeah. I have all of the ones that have been released so far.
The 3, yes. Oh yes.
Absolutely. If something like that showed up, I think I did buy a ray gun last year over at the Weta booth. We'll have a bunch of Weta guys at my party here tonight.
So cool.
Greg Broadmoor, who designed all the weapons for District 9, is a friend of mine. We've been hanging out for the last 3 years at Comic-Con.
Awesome.
Yeah, you can come. I always say, don't bring cash. If you bring cash, you're gonna spend all of it because there's so much stuff to buy. Like it's like and things that you don't even know where you would put. Like this amazing statue of Doctor Doom from Sideshow.
That's the stuff that gets really beautiful. Is the large scale action figurines here are just jaw-droppingly gorgeous. I'll tell you, the thing that I am super coveting right now, the thing that I've been waiting, because they announced it last year at Comic-Con, it still hasn't come out, is the Hot Toys Kane robot from RoboCop 2.
Wow.
Hot Toys is releasing a 1/6 scale Kane robot that's going to be like 14 inches tall. This is one of my dream acquisitions.
You should just go to Tippett Studio because he has the actual
He has the maquette,
and just talk to him about that. But yeah, Hot Toys is a
I've
company
been meaning to talk to Phil about that.
Yeah, they make great stuff.
They make beautiful stuff. I have a bunch of their action figures.
Yeah, and all awesome. Yes.
Excellent. So let's see.
This is. We can. It's arbitrary where we stop talking about Comic-Con because there's an endless well of things to discuss.
There's no 20 minutes on the Comic-Con special. So
one of the great ways to experience some of the variety of Comic-Con is to go to a photo sharing place like Flickr, and
And
Just search ComicCon.
ComicCon
2012.
-con
And
2012.
you will see hundreds of thousands of photos.
Absolutely.
You search specific costumes, you'll find just tens of thousands of those.
It's one of those things, you know how like Microsoft has technology where people can, if they get enough photos, they can stitch them together and like replicate a 3D
Photo
environment.
stream.
That's the
Photosynth,
yes.
right?
Yeah. The guys
If
that did
you-
the Parthenon and
You walk through Comic-Con, everyone has a camera, whether it's cell phone, whether it's video, GoPros. If you took all those photos, you could replicate a 3D model of Comic-Con.
You
the virtual
probably could,
experience.
or there's perhaps there's people looking at new ways to parse photos rather than slideshows because we don't take photos for the same reasons we used to. We used to take them so we'd have a collection of them, and now they're much more like an ongoing sort of data reference archive, but it's a really live archive, not like I have trouble sorting photos. Finding photos that I've sorted because I'm using an old paradigm to sort them, where I'm definitely taking them with a new paradigm in mind.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's one of those things that even the hardware's changed over the years. Like a digital camera made today is designed for many more shutter firings than an SLR was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Because you'd run 3,000 through that, and I can do 1,000 shots in a weekend on my camera just without really even paying
I
attention.
say it is the photographer's responsibility at Comic-Con to curate the experience for the Flickr viewers.
Absolutely,
No blurry
Absolutely.
shots. Put Comic-Con on your Apple TV or your computer screensaver. You can pull those images down straight into the folder, and then it's just a constant surprise whenever the Apple TV goes to sleep.
I mean, and you would think if you started to look at those, like if let's say you spent a couple of hours going through those photos, you'd think, I don't notice anything that looks the same here. It is, how big is this place? And the answer is, it's like half a mile long.
It's if you look down
3 football fields, or
from one end, Hall A, you cannot see the end of Hall H.
Yeah.
I mean, it curves, but you cannot see.
It's an astonishingly large.
You see the horizon. The ceiling dips down below the horizon. Yeah.
So what are the Comic-Con traps? What are the things you've learned to avoid at Comic-Con? Is there anything? Is it? I mean,
Yes, absolutely.
What I notice that when I'm walking the floor and there's a whole bunch of people gathered around looking at something, not to stop and try and see what they're looking at. That is often a huge trap because usually it's a scantily clad girl talking about a video game.
Yeah.
There's
those video game people.
There's a
people
lot of
throwing
what we would
t-shirts.
call honey traps.
Badger traps. Yeah, people throwing t-shirts. Never grab the free t-shirt. Never grab the free stuff because that's just more stuff to take home.
more weight.
Yeah.
So in that regard, the central aisle of Comic-Con can be itself a honey trap, but the outer aisles is where a lot of the great T-shirts and a lot of the great figures. 2 years ago, I got a beautiful T-shirt signed by Peter Mayhew, who played Chewbacca.
Oh, that's awesome.
I had Chewbacca, the green T-shirt with the Che Guevara Chewbacca. It's an honor to talk to the guy, and I mean that's happening all over this place.
Everywhere you go. I mean,
Everywhere you go.
yeah.
It's the Louvre also. You cannot see it all. Don't try to see it all. People like first timers who go to Comic-Con, they look at the schedule, their eyes are shining. I'm going to go see this panel, and then I'm going to immediately leave and then go see that panel right after.
Yeah, good
That's
luck with
impossible. No, it's lines everywhere, and it goes to the point that it's become bigger than the event. Than the building can hold.
The anticipation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So target your things. If you want to go to Hall H, the big 6,500 person hall, plan to spend 8 hours in
Just
line.
don't leave.
Yeah.
So
don't leave. They
I
don't
guess
care.
once we're done with this podcast, we should tell people that in a few days they could check in and we'll do a post Comic-Con wrap up because it's only the beginning of our second day here.
Yeah. I haven't been on the floor yet. I don't have a badge.
There's 2 more days to go. You don't have a badge?
Not yet.
I can get
No,
you.
I have.
Okay.
There's
Has
one.
not picked
There's
one
one
up
for
yet.
me. I have
Okay.
not
Yeah.
physically obtained it.
Don't
yet.
try to go to Comic-Con without a badge.
No,
That's not
that's
gonna
a
go
bad
well.
idea, Gene.
Yeah.
Even you can't even get into Comic-Con without
No,
a badge.
I can't.
So yeah, we'll be back with more stuff
We'll
from
do
Comic-Con.
a post wrap up. We'll have some photos.
Exactly.
Many,
Norm has a
many
giant
photos,
gallery of
yeah.
cosplay photos as always. He goes through you need to watch Norm do the cutting when he does the cosplay gallery.
The culling?
He literally no.
Oh.
When he photo directs them as they're being shot, and he'll take the big group photo and then culls each individual of the group photo. If he's shooting the Justice League, he'll get Batman and Robin by themselves, shoot them, get
Hold that
Batman,
base. Hold the
and-
Batarang
and do
close
the
to your head.
whole
I
yeah.
wanna see the-
Yes.
And is incredibly like it's amazing to watch because it's really hard to shoot 1,200 good pictures of people in costume. Even
It's also
here,
hard to
in 3
pose.
days.
It's also hard to pose properly in a costume. You need someone to tell you what to
Well,
do.
now you say that, but the cosplayers who are experienced, they have their poses.
Oh, not only do they have
the
the I
rotation
know
of poses.
I know, and they work on them.
Yes.
And they should, because I had to
Absolutely.
do that. I had to learn the whole Joker gate when I was doing the bank heist Joker
So
costume.
when you approach someone, for example, they're in a great anime costume, they'll do a pose, and then if you wait too long, they'll rotate to the secondary pose, and then the third pose.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
And and that may be one of the things that is a great little illustrator of that intersection between people not just consuming the pop culture, but actually participating, producing, and extending it.
Yeah. And like we've said, the interesting thing to me about the cosplay costumes especially is that they are so much more detailed than the actual real movie props.
Oh, yeah.
That like it's beyond what you would get in Hollywood when you're walking around here. You see level of detail that you would never see in the real world.
Yes. Well, and you see that whenever you go to the Weta booth, they are absolutely recruiting at any given time there to bring people to New Zealand to be part of their cadre of great craftsmen.
It's got to be a rough life in New Zealand down there. I don't know. We should go visit them and tour. I want to see that shop. I think it's got to be amazing.
I heartily agree. I have an open invitation. I've never taken them up on it, but I've always wanted to.
But whenever you want to go to New Zealand, Adam, just let us know and we'll
All right.
totally tag
All right.
along.
Some point in 2016.
Okay.
I'm dying to go.
Sounds good. I guess that'll wrap it up for us on a very special ComicCon episode of Still Untitled.
Still Untitled.
Still Untitled.
Adam Savage Project.
We'll be back with more
Yes.
every
ComicCon
Tuesday,
wrap-up.
basically.
Yeah.
Every
Yeah.
Tuesday. So see you guys next time.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.